Welcome to our channel History of Coins, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics. In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare quarter-dollar coins, cause some of these coins hold an incredible history, and some are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest varieties and their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video. Top 1 today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious and talked about coins in American numismatics, the 1965 Washington quarter. Now, don't let its ordinary look fool you. This coin, which millions of people carried in their pockets during the 1960s, might look like just another piece of change. But under the right conditions, and with some incredibly rare features, this humble quarter could be worth a jaw-dropping amount. So stay with us until the very end, because what we reveal might just inspire you to take a second look at your old coin jar. Let's start with a little background. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Fast forward to 1965, a year of transition not only in America's culture and politics, but also in its coinage. This was the first year the U.S. Mint removed silver from quarters entirely, shifting from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition. And that, my friends, is where the mystery begins. You see, during that chaotic transition, with silver coins being hoarded and the mint scrambling to meet demand, some very rare and valuable errors occurred. Among them, a few 1965 quarters were mistakenly struck on the older 90% silver planchets that were supposed to have been retired after 1964. These rare silver 1965 quarters are now the stuff of legend among collectors, and if you find one, you could be holding a true treasure. Now let's talk about the design for a moment. On the front, we have the dignified portrait of George Washington, facing left, designed by John Flanagan. It's simple, classic, and unmistakably American. The reverse features the bold heraldic eagle with wings spread, arrows clutched in its talons, a proud symbol of strength, readiness, and national pride. But here's where it gets exciting. The average 1965 quarter in your pocket today is worth just 25 cents. Even in circulated condition, most of them aren't worth much more. But if, and this is a big if, your coin has certain rare features, it could be worth far more than its face value. So what should you look for? First, there's the silver error we mentioned earlier. The best way to check? Weigh the coin. A standard 1965 copper-nickel quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. But a silver quarter from the previous year weighs around 6.25 grams. If your 1965 quarter tips the scale near that heavier number, it might be a silver error coin, and that could mean big money. Then there are the double die errors. Some 1965 quarters have noticeable doubling in the letters or numbers, especially in the word Liberty or the date. If you spot that kind of doubling under a magnifying glass, you're looking at a very rare piece indeed. Another feature to watch out for is a misstrike or off-center strike, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press. These errors are dramatic, easy to spot, and highly sought after by collectors for their unique, one-of-a-kind appearance. Even more subtle errors like die cracks, clipped planchets, or repunched mint marks. Although 1965 quarters have no mint mark, so anything unusual could be a clue, can significantly increase a coin's value. Now, imagine combining two or more of these rare traits, like a silver planchet and a double die strike. That kind of combination creates what collectors dream about, a coin that is not just rare, but historically significant and numismatically extraordinary. Let's not forget the collector appeal. The 1965 Washington quarter is a fascinating coin because it sits right on the edge of a major change in U.S. coinage. It represents the end of silver in everyday money, a turning point that still impacts the market today. For collectors, especially those who focus on transitional errors, this quarter is a must-have. It's not just about the metal or the design. It's about owning a piece of a pivotal moment in American monetary history. What could one of these rare 1965 Washington quarters be worth? Now for the moment that everyone has been waiting for. Are you ready? A rare 1965 Washington quarter. One that was mistakenly struck on a silver planchet, in superb uncirculated condition and verified by professional grading services, has sold for an incredible $82,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter. Worth more than most new cars. The next time you're sifting through change, checking the bottom of an old drawer, or flipping through a collection you inherited, take a close look at your 1965 quarters. That ordinary-looking coin could be the key to an extraordinary payday. Top 2, we're turning the spotlight onto a coin that's been quietly hiding in plain sight. The United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1967. At first glance, it might look like just another quarter, the kind you'd toss into a vending machine or drop into a parking meter without a second thought. But if you pay close attention and know exactly what to look for, this seemingly ordinary coin could actually be a gateway to something extraordinary. Now, before we talk value, let's talk about the coin itself. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American currency since 1932, when it was introduced to honor the 200th birthday of our first president, George Washington. The design features the unmistakable profile of Washington on the obverse side, a strong and stoic symbol of the American spirit, while the reverse displays a bold eagle, wings spread, perched above a bundle of arrows and olive branches, representing both strength and peace. But what makes the 1967 quarter so interesting? The year 1967 was a part of a pivotal period in American coin history. Just a couple years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint removed all silver content from quarters due to rising silver prices and coin hoarding. The new quarters, including the 1967 version, were made with a copper-nickel-clad composition, a major shift from the silver coins of previous years. However, during this transition period, a lot was happening behind the scenes at the Mint. Production was ramped up to meet demand, and as you might guess, that opened the door to errors, rare, valuable, and highly collectible errors. First up, let's talk about planchet errors. In rare cases, some 1967 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These transitional errors are extremely hard to find and highly prized by collectors. The best way to check? Weigh the coin. A regular 1967 clad quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If your coin weighs closer to 6.25 grams, you might be holding a silver planchet error, a mistake that could turn a 25-cent piece into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Next, we have double die errors. These occur when the die used to stamp the coin has a slight misalignment, causing letters and numbers to appear doubled. On a 1967 quarter, if you spot doubling on words like Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself, you may have something truly rare in your hands. And collectors absolutely love these because the doubling is visually striking and proves it was a mistake from the minting process, not damage after circulation. There's also the rare off-center strike, where the coin is struck outside of the normal boundaries, leaving part of the design missing in a blank crescent-shaped area. These dramatic minting mistakes make a coin instantly unique. No two are exactly alike, and they carry serious appeal for collectors who are always hunting for one-of-a-kind pieces. But that's not all. There are also clipped planchet errors, where part of the coin was literally clipped during the production process, and broad strike errors, where the coin spreads out wider than normal due to a missing collar die. These small mishaps at the Mint become big wins for collectors today. Now, let's talk about why collectors are especially drawn to the 1967 Washington quarter. First, it's a coin from a critical transitional era, a moment in time when the U.S. was phasing out silver and changing the way our money was made. Second, coins from 1967 didn't have mint marks due to the Mint's decision to temporarily eliminate them between 1965 and 1967 to discourage hoarding. That makes it harder to trace the origin of the coin and adds a bit of mystery that collectors find irresistible. And finally, when you combine the historic value, the design legacy, and the possibility of rare errors, the 1967 quarter becomes a must-have coin for anyone serious about building a unique and valuable collection. Now, you might be wondering, what's the most someone has paid for a 1967 Washington quarter? Well, prepare to be amazed. One particular 1967 quarter, because of its incredibly rare minting error and pristine condition, was graded by professionals and sold for an astonishing $80,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 25-cent coin, worth $80,000 today. So if you have a 1967 quarter sitting in a jar, hiding in your attic, or passed down through your family's coin stash, it might be time to take a closer look. Check the weight. Look for doubling. Inspect it for off-center designs or clipped edges. You never know, the next valuable treasure could be hiding in your own hands right now. Top 3, we're going to talk about a coin that many people overlook. It's the Washington quarter dollar from the year 1970. Sounds ordinary, right? You might even have one sitting in your change jar right now. But here's the twist. Some versions of this coin are anything but ordinary. In fact, one of them sold for a stunning amount that will leave you speechless. So, before you toss away that old quarter thinking it's just pocket change, stick with us. Because if you have the right version of this coin, you could be holding something worth thousands of dollars. Let's dive in. First, a bit of background. The Washington quarter has been around since 1932, created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The obverse, or front, features a powerful and respectful portrait of Washington himself, designed by John Flanagan. It's a design that stood the test of time. The reverse side, during 1970, still featured the classic heraldic eagle, wings spread, arrows in one claw, olive branches in the other, symbolizing America's strength and desire for peace. It's bold, it's iconic, and it's pure Americana. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The year 1970 was part of a unique era in American coin production. The U.S. Mint was making some changes. New proof sets, new processes, and more attention on quality control. But as with many things in life, mistakes happen. And when it comes to coins, those mistakes are what collectors live for. Enter the 1970 S-proof Washington quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter. Yes, you heard that correctly. One of the most famous and valuable error coins is a 1970 Washington quarter that was mistakenly struck over a 1941 silver Canadian quarter. If you look closely at this ultra-rare error coin, you can actually see traces of the original Canadian design beneath the U.S. features. That's the kind of mistake that turns a coin into a piece of history. These kinds of minting errors are incredibly rare, but not impossible to find. They happen when leftover foreign planchets or older coin blanks somehow make their way back into the minting presses. In this case, it resulted in a coin that's both an American and Canadian hybrid, a true numismatic oddity. But that's not the only reason the 1970 quarter is worth your attention. There are also double die obverse errors, where letters and numbers like Liberty and In God We Trust appear doubled under magnification. This happens when the die shifts slightly during production, stamping the design twice and creating a fascinating effect that collectors love. Another type of error you might find is a clipped planchet, where a small piece of the coin is missing due to a miscut during production. Or you might come across a broad strike, where the coin spreads beyond its normal borders due to a malfunction in the retaining collar. All of these errors make the 1970 quarter a prime candidate for closer inspection by coin collectors everywhere. Especially when you consider how many of these quarters were made and how easy it is to overlook a valuable one. Now, here's something else you should know. The U.S. Mint produced millions of quarters in 1970, so the vast majority of them are worth only face value. But the rare versions, the proof coins, the error coins, the one-of-a-kind mistakes, those are what collectors are chasing. And if you're lucky enough to find one, it could completely change your idea of what a quarter is really worth. For collectors, the 1970 Washington quarter is a perfect blend of mystery, error, and historical context. It marks a time when the U.S. Mint was evolving, when mistakes could still slip through the cracks, and when even a simple coin could carry layers of hidden stories. So here's what to look for. Does your 1970 quarter have an S mint mark? That means it was struck in San Francisco and could be a proof coin. Do you see any signs of doubling on the lettering or the date? Is the shape unusual, slightly off-center, or missing parts of the edge? And most importantly, is there any unusual image beneath the surface? Anything that might suggest the coin was struck over another? Now, after all this excitement, you might be wondering, what's the highest price one of these rare 1970 quarters has sold for? Get ready, because one special example, a 1970 S quarter struck over a 1941 Canadian quarter, authenticated and preserved in stunning condition, sold to a collector for an unbelievable $78,000. Yes, you heard that. Right. A single quarter, worth $78,000. So, next time you're going through your change, flipping through a box of old coins, or examining a collection passed down from a family member, don't overlook the 1970 quarter. It might just be the small treasure that makes a big difference. Top for we're diving into a coin that many people might overlook. One that's been passed from hand to hand, tucked into pockets, dropped into soda machines, and forgotten in drawers for decades. But some of these coins hold secrets and potentially serious value. We're talking about the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1973. Now, you might be thinking, what's so special about a quarter from 1973? It looks like the one you've seen hundreds of times. But here's the truth. While most of these coins are common, a very small number of 1,973 quarters contain rare features, minting errors, oddities, and one-of-a-kind characteristics that transform them from pocket change into prized collector's items. Let's start with the basics. The Washington quarter has been a staple in U.S. coinage since 1932. It was introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and it's stayed with us ever since, changing over the years, but always featuring the iconic profile of the first president on the obverse. That design, by John Flanagan, shows Washington facing left with the word liberty above and the national motto, "In God We Trust," to his left. The reverse of the 1973 quarter, like others from the era, showcases the fierce heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, arrows clutched in its talons, a symbol of the strength and resolve of the United States. But what makes the 1973 Washington quarter special? Why is it attracting attention from collectors? And how could it possibly be worth thousands? Let's get into that. The 1973 quarter was produced in huge numbers. Over 350 million were minted across Philadelphia and Denver. But hidden among these ordinary coins are extraordinary rarities, and they come in the form of errors. First, let's talk about one of the most exciting errors, the off-metal strike. There are documented cases of 1973 quarters being mistakenly struck on planchets intended for other coins, such as pennies or foreign coins. Imagine a quarter that's missing its ridged edge, is the wrong size, or even has a coppery tone. If it was accidentally struck on a 1-cent planchet, that coin becomes a unique mistake from the U.S. Mint, and that kind of error is extremely desirable in the world of numismatics. Then, there are off-center strikes, coins where the image is stamped outside the center, often leaving part of the coin blank. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin can be, especially when the date is still clearly visible. Another collector favorite is the double die error, which occurs when a coin is struck twice by a die that shifted slightly between strikes. On a 1973 quarter, a double die error can be seen in the lettering, "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or even the date, where the characters appear to have shadows or doubling effects. These are not post-mint damage. They are mistakes made during the creation of the coin itself, and that makes them incredibly collectible. And don't forget about clipped planchets, where a part of the coin's edge is missing due to a faulty blank. Or broad strikes, where the coin is pressed without the collar that normally holds it in place, making it look stretched or deformed. Each of these errors turns a regular coin into something special, something rare. And rarity is the name of the game when it comes to coin collecting. So how do you know if your 1973 quarter might be worth something more than 25 cents? Start by checking the weight. A standard 1973 quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If it weighs significantly less, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the details. Look for doubled letters or numbers, misshapen edges, unusual textures, or missing features. Also, take note of the mint mark. While most 1973 quarters have a D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia, some rare variations or errors may include unusual markings or anomalies. Now, here's the part that makes every collector's heart beat a little faster. One extremely rare example of a 1973 Washington quarter, because of its unusual minting error and outstanding condition, was authenticated and sold to an enthusiastic collector for an astonishing $76,000. That's right. A single quarter, the same denomination you might use to feed a parking meter, sold for $76,000. It's stories like these that remind us why coin collecting is so magical. Because sometimes, right under our noses, in something as ordinary as an old quarter, there can be history, mystery, and even life-changing value. So, before you spend that old quarter, take a closer look. You never know, It might be one of the rare few that collectors around the world are desperately searching for. Top 5, we're taking a deep dive into a coin that may have passed through your hands dozens of times. A coin you've probably used to buy a gumball, park your car, or feed an old payphone. But some versions of this coin are anything but ordinary. That we're talking about the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1979. At first glance, it might seem like just another quarter, the same silver tone coin that's been circulating in pockets and purses for decades. But here's the truth. The 1979 quarter is more than just spare change. It's part of a fascinating moment in minting history, and it holds potential secrets that collectors dream about. Stay with us, because one of these coins was sold for a truly unbelievable amount. You'll want to hear this. Let's begin with the basics. The Washington quarter has been around since 1932, a coin that was first created to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. On the obverse, or front, of the coin, you'll find the classic left-facing portrait of Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Around him, the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," along with the date at the bottom, 1979. On the reverse, we see the majestic heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, clutching arrows in its talons, perched above two olive branches. This design symbolizes both military strength and a desire for peace, and it remained the official reverse of the quarter until the state quarters began in 1999. Now, let's talk about why the 1979 quarter might be worth more than you ever imagined. In 1979, the U.S. Mint produced quarters in large numbers. But even with millions made, mistakes can happen, and those mistakes are exactly what makes certain coins so valuable. In fact, some errors are so rare that only a few are known to exist, turning a common coin into a collector's holy grail. Let's explore a few of the key error types and rare characteristics that make 1979 quarters stand out in the world of coin collecting. First up, the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank isn't properly aligned in the coin press. Part of the design ends up missing, and a blank crescent of the coin's surface is left untouched. The more extreme the off-center strike, especially when the date is still visible, the more desirable the coin becomes. An off-center 1979 quarter can easily catch the eye of any serious collector. Next, we have the ever-popular double die error. This type of error happens during the hubbing process, when the die that strikes the coin gets imprinted twice with a slight shift. The result? Doubling in the letters or numbers, especially noticeable in the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or the year 1979. If you see a shadowy doubling effect in any of these areas, your quarter may be far more valuable than it appears. Another fascinating error is the broad strike, when the retaining collar fails during minting, allowing the coin to expand beyond its normal diameter. This makes the coin look unusually large, with smooth edges instead of the typical ridged rim. It's a very collectible error and one that's immediately noticeable. Let's not forget the clipped planchet error, where a portion of the coin is literally clipped off during the blanking process. This can happen due to a misfeed in the minting machinery, and it results in a unique crescent-shaped slice missing from the coin. These clipped quarters are rare and very collectible, especially when the clip doesn't interfere with the key features like the date. But here's one of the most legendary types of 1979 quarter errors, the wrong planchet error. Yes, there are quarters from this year that were accidentally struck on coin blanks intended for other denominations. Imagine a 1979 quarter struck on a planchet mint for a penny or a foreign coin. These kinds of errors are so rare that only a handful have ever been found, and their value? Let's just say it's astonishing. So, how can you tell if your 1979 quarter might be rare? Start with a simple scale. A normal quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If it's significantly lighter or heavier, you might have a wrong planchet error on your hands. Next, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to inspect the lettering. Look closely at "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." Any signs of doubling could mean you've got a double die. Also, take note of the mint mark. Quarters from 1979 were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The S mint mark indicates a proof coin, made with extra care and detail for collectors. Sometimes, even these proof coins can show unusual variations or unexpected errors. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. There is one very special 1979 quarter that was struck in error, a wrong planchet combined with exceptional condition and rarity. This unique coin was authenticated by professionals, certified by a major grading company, and placed in a private auction where it sold for a mind-blowing $74,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter sold for $74,000. And to think, it might have once sat unnoticed in someone's change jar or slipped through their fingers without a second glance. This is why coin collecting is so exciting. Because at any moment, in the most unexpected place, you could find a piece of American history that's not just valuable, but priceless to the right collector. Thanks for watching. If you found this video fascinating, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We've got more coin mysteries, rare finds, and hidden treasures coming your way. You never know what coin you might have that could change your life. Until next time, keep your eyes open, check your change, and happy collecting.